Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching first part of What If Naruto Became Power Hungry. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Death was unpleasant, but at least it was quick for me. Yes, I killed myself, but I've always believed that your life is yours, and no one has the right to decide how you live it or end it. Mine had run its course, and it was past time to call it quits. It doesn't matter how I did it, and I certainly don't want to give you any ideas. All that matters is that I deliberated long and hard about it, and I chose to welcome the cold and uncaring void willingly and with open arms. I spent a lot of time in that void, which I'm sure was bad for whatever sanity I had left, but what did I care? I was sure I'd fade away into non-existence eventually. I was never the most rational person, and I was never very good with feelings, either my own or those of others. I was well adjusted enough that if I wasn't having one of my episodes, I could pass for a normal guy, and it's not like I didn't have coping mechanisms. My release, my drug, what kept me? Well, me. Books, movies, video games, anime, and manga were all my passions. I could spend hours in front of a screen, experiencing whole new worlds, new people, and new things. It was all so amazing that I couldn't get enough. As a child, I was not very good at making friends, and while I could talk to people just fine as an adult, I never really enjoyed people. Even my small group of friends tired me out after a while. Fiction was my escape from all of that. I projected myself into those worlds, where I was important, where I could fulfill all of the expectations that others and myself had placed on me, where I was good enough, even the best, where I mattered. I recall the day I first fell down the rabbit hole of crimes against writing and masterworks based on genuine affection for certain works known as fanfiction. It was 2 a.m., and I was lying in bed, bored, looking at my phone. I had just finished one of my favorite games but still desired more. I was aware of fanfiction and decided to give it a try. I was exhausted but knew I had discovered my new obsession. I ended up reading Naruto fanfiction because I had just finished the anime and was in a bit of a Naruto frenzy. As the years passed and I continued to read, I began to imagine what I would do if I were in Naruto, how I would train hard and become unstoppable. I developed an emotional attachment to the show as I consumed more and more content about it. It wasn't my only obsession, and I had to take a break from it now and then, but it was one of my favorites. But I'm digressing. I was telling you about death. I'm not sure how long I was in that void, but I eventually saw a light, and something drew me towards it, blinding me for a moment. When I was finally able to open my eyes, I saw something, or rather someone, whom I would grimace and try to kill if I had any control over my body. As it was, I could only stare as Minato Namikaze held me in his arms. I was yanked from his arms and into the arms of a masked man, but reality had already set in. I was watching Naruto. Naruto was me. It was unbelievable to me. All those hours spent imagining this exact situation, and now that it was real, all I could think about was all the things I was going to do, all the power I would have. It would be incredible. I was so deep in thought that I didn't notice anything until I felt a brush against my stomach. I recalled this instance. It was when Naruto, me, was sealed inside the Kyuubi. I couldn't believe it. I considered breaking the seal, spilling ink everywhere, and ruining the ritual, ensuring that this cretin who would use his own son as a human sacrifice would perish for nothing and his precious hellhole of a village would soon follow, but I didn't. Who was I to say no if he offered me the most powerful tailed beast on a silver platter? I was confident that I could easily persuade Kurama to give me its power, and that once I was powerful enough, I could destroy this village myself if I so desired. All I could do was smile as I watched Kurama's massive paw come towards me with the intent of crushing me into a gory stain and my would-be parents being run through with one of its claws. If only they knew what they unleashed on the world that day, if only they could see the consequences of their actions, I like to believe that my sperm donor, not my father, never my father, saw a bit through that smile as he was sacrificing his soul to the Shinigami, that he could glimpse into the man that was inside that baby, and that he could see the utter hatred I held for him and his bitch, and the amount of vindictive pleasure I felt looking at. As I lay there in the grass, almost shaking with anticipation of what was to come, what I would accomplish, all I could think of was, I'm going to burn this fucker to the ground. After 6 years. Naruto was sitting in a meditative position on his bed, eyes closed and breathing steadily. He'd just moved from the orphanage to his apartment and started at the academy where he'd become a ninja. The previous 6 years had been relatively quiet. He wasn't popular in the village, but he wasn't a people person, so it didn't bother him, and aside from the glares and the occasional rude comment, he was fine. I knew famine was the worst part of Naruto's childhood, but this is a lot better than I was expecting, he thought. The Hyuga affair had happened a few years ago, and from what he heard, it was the same as canon, and he was also hearing rumors of Uchiha discontent, but the massacre hadn't happened yet. Perhaps I should go shopping for some Sharingan when it comes out and take a page out of Danzo's book, Naruto chuckled to himself. He'd spent the previous 6 years attempting to mimic the normal development of a child, albeit a prodigy. He considered restraining himself to being normal, or even as slow as canon Naruto had been, but decided that in a village of ninja, he would be discovered, and if he was too slow and then suddenly gained power when the situation demanded it, he would be suspicious. Showing off too much could be problematic, but flying under the radar too much would also sabotage his plans. He needed certain resources to grow stronger, and obtaining them would be easier if he demonstrated potential. Speaking of resources to help him grow stronger, he was currently attempting to contact the Kyuubi, confident that he could use his meta-knowledge to strike a deal with Kurama and that its power would be very useful not only in combat but also in fueling his own training, not to mention the knowledge it must have picked up between being formed from the 10 tails and now. He concentrated on the seal on his stomach and attempted to enter his mindscape through it. He felt something pulling at his consciousness as he controlled his breathing and allowed himself to be pulled. When he opened his eyes, he found himself in the familiar void he had spent so much time in prior to his reincarnation, with the massive bars of a cage in the distance, where he could feel the malevolent chakra of the Kyuubi. The oppressive feeling grew heavier with each step he took, and by the time he got to the bars, the air around him seemed to be saturated by it. A single red eye opened and looked down at him, followed by another and a deep voice speaking to him. So my jailer has finally arrived to demand my authority. You people are all the same. Kyuubi stated. Demand is a strong word. I came to negotiate your assistance, Naruto explained. What could you possibly have to offer me, arrogant little human? The Kyuubi inquired. Revenge for one, both on the man who controlled you 6 years ago and on Madara Uchiha, who trapped you in a human in the first place, Naruto smirked. Foolish human, Madara is no longer alive. The Kyuubi yelled. That he is, but the thing is, he already has plans to be resurrected. He plans to fuse you and the other tailed beasts back into the 10 tails and then become its Junchuriki and use its power to trap the world in an illusion, Naruto explained. How did you come to know about the 10 tails, human? Oh, I know a lot of things, and I'd be happy to share them with you, but calling me human is tiring. I'll call you Kurama, and you can call me Naruto. Naruto raised his palm and said, First our deal. I want full cooperation from you when using your chakra as well as your knowledge when it comes to my training. We will be partners and we will help each other whenever we can. In exchange I will kill the man who controlled you, destroy Madara's plan, and get you your other half. Kurama was surprised that Naruto even realized it was missing its other half. They remembered Naruto's deal and said, We have a deal, but I want to know how you know all these things you shouldn't know. It's a pleasure doing business with you, Naruto smiled. They spent the next few hours talking about Naruto's past life, reincarnation, and future events. Kurama was taken aback, but thanks to its emotional sensing abilities, they knew Naruto was telling the truth. And then he used reverse harem jutsu on her to stun her and land a hit. Naruto stated. "Ha. That old hag is right, goddess of chakra or not, she is still horny." Kurama burst out laughing. "You mentioned fanfiction, but you didn't go into specifics. What exactly is it?" It stated. Naruto turned away and said, "You don't want to know." Kurama growled at him, "This information is part of our agreement, and if you don't tell me. In it, you're a submissive slut who craves cock and will whore your power away to get it, and it's all downhill from there," Naruto explained, avoiding Kurama's gaze. "On second thought, I think I'm fine." "I don't want to know," Kurama explained. "Human depravity is limitless." "Indeed. Did you learn anything useful during your immortal life? You are aware that I am a massive orange fox, correct? I don't exactly exude stealth." "Well. Shit. After 6 years. Kurama, it turned out, did have useful skills to teach, most of which it had learned while inside its previous Jinchuriki. This, combined with Naruto's memories from the show, enabled them to accomplish a great deal in terms of training, the first of which was recreating the shadow clone jutsu. Because of this, and the fact that the mindscape proved to be more of a pocket dimension than a metaphysical space, Naruto was able to leave shadow clones training there during the day, and at night they would try to recreate jutsu from the show or work in original ideas. Unfortunately, the mindscape did not allow Naruto to train his body, owing to the fact that Naruto's body was usually in bed while in the mindscape, so they had to devise a solution. That came in the form of the previous Jinchuriki's knowledge. It took some time, but eventually they had special gravity seals that improved with the user, allowing them to maintain a certain level of strength and speed while still allowing the user to grow stronger. Having 2 seal masters to draw from was proving to be extremely beneficial. With all of the constant training and shadow clones, he may not be a prodigy, but he might as well be the greatest of them all. Itachi would have graduated the academy years ago if it hadn't been for his poor track record, his own refusals, and the fact that he held himself back to only show he was on par with Sasuke. While he was on a time crunch, if he was going to make the most of certain events, he couldn't change too many big things before he was ready, lest his knowledge become obsolete and his entire plan crumble. He was in his academy classroom, waiting to be called for graduation. While most teachers didn't like him, they weren't unfair to him most of the time, and with him competing with Sasuke for Rookie of the Year and carefully making sure he was slightly behind him, there wasn't much they could do to him without being obvious about it. He didn't have much a social life outside of the academy, and it wasn't much better inside. He was polite to everyone but didn't go out of his way to make friends. During his first week, a few of the older kids tried to bully him, and he beat them all up by himself. After that, people mostly avoided him. He did, however, have a few acquaintances. Sasuke Uchiha didn't even look at him at first, but after he beat Sasuke in their first spar, the boy developed a sort of rivalry in which Sasuke was slightly ahead in academic pursuits but Naruto tended to do better in physical aspects of training. He had tried to avoid Shikamaru Nara, and with the exception of the occasional spar in class, he had been successful. He could easily defeat him, but Nara were astute, and he didn't want to risk being discovered before it was too late. Hinata Hyuga was a nice girl. He ended up helping her like Naruto in the anime, and she developed feelings for him. He was aware of it but had no intention of responding to her feelings. Even though she was not 12, and he did not consider himself to be an adult, his plans did not allow for relationships. And then there was Sakura Haruno. She wasn't as bad as fanfiction had led him to believe, but she was still annoying, especially since, because he was on par with Sasuke, she assumed he was trying to outdo him. He didn't like her in the least, but he couldn't let her die in a mission. She was too important to the plot, and there was no way of knowing what would happen to Team 7 if she died. They could be put on hold until another genin could take her place, they could be disbanded and slotted into other teams, but no, the plan demanded that he deal with her annoyance, and he would not ruin it just because of her. While he was waiting, the teacher, Amino Iruka, entered and called his name. True to canon, the teacher initially disliked him but eventually managed to see him as Naruto and not the Kyuubi, even if he was no longer the class clown and dead last. Contrary to popular belief, Naruto did not like Iruka. He believed that being able to see past his bias was the bare minimum and was not worthy of praise, and even if he did, he was still Konoha and thus not someone Naruto cared about. He entered the examination room and noticed 2 tables, one of which was occupied by Mizuki, the assistant teacher and not-so-secret traitor, but who was he to speak? He had every intention of dealing with Orochimaru when the time came. Iruka sat at the opposite table and turned to Naruto, saying, "Well Naruto, it's exam time, but with your grades, you should be fine, now perform the henge." Naruto looked at him before changing into Iruka. "No hand seals and no smoke, impressive," Iruka said. "Now perform the Kawarimi." Again, no seals. Naruto switched places with a chair in the far corner of the room. "Very good, now the Bunshin," said Iruka. A Naruto clone appeared alongside him, and they both smirked at Iruka and Mizuki. "Congratulations Naruto, you passed, you're now a genin of Konoha," Iruka said, smiling. "How are the class rankings now, Iruka-sensei?" Naruto inquired. "Well, with your score, you're just behind Sasuke for Rookie of the Year, Naruto," Iruka replied. Naruto made a point of looking defeated before nodding and walking away. As he walked back to the classroom, he wondered, did he buy it? "Hook, line, and sinker," Kurama replied, chuckling. "Good, the Forbidden Scroll of Sealing is too good to pass up." "Have you decided which jutsu you want to learn?" Kurama inquired. "It will be useful to be able to use the Shadow Clone and its explosive variant in public," Naruto replied. "Are you going to copy every jutsu in there?" "Of course, I'll need the Edo Tensei at some point, and more power is always beneficial." When Naruto heard someone calling to him, he had to fight the urge to smirk when Mizuki told him about a secret test that would give him enough points to take the top spot. Later that evening, Naruto had just snuck out of the Hokage Tower, clutching a Forbidden Scroll of Sealing. He had avoided Hokage and gotten away without being seen, and he was now in the forest near where Mizuki had told him to meet him. He created a shadow clone with the scroll in hand, and the clone that appeared also had a copy of the scroll with him. He nodded at the clone who sneaked away to a prepared hidden spot where several clones and writing material were waiting to copy the scroll. "What should we do now?" Kurama inquired. "Now we wait and pretend to stubble the scroll," Naruto explained. This is how Iruka discovered Naruto a few hours later. Iruka had been summoned to track down and recover the thief of the Forbidden Scroll of Sealing, and he was looking through the woods when he felt Naruto's chakra signature. He approached the blonde who was sitting under a tree reading the scroll. "What are you doing, Naruto?" "Iruka-sensei? I thought Mizuki-sensei was the test proctor?" "Mizuki? Naruto, what is the test?" Iruka inquired, perplexed. "The extra credit test. Mizuki-sensei said if I could steal the scroll without being detected and bring it to him here, I could be Rookie of the Year," Naruto replied. Before he could say anything else, a Fuma shuriken flew towards Naruto, and Iruka, unaware that his student had seen it coming and was perfectly capable of avoiding it, jumped in front of it and took it to his back. Mizuki emerged from the woods and exclaimed, "Give me the scroll, brat." "No, Naruto, don't give it to him. He's a liar," Iruka yelled as she struggled to stand. "Shut up. Now give it here, demon," Mizuki said as she approached Naruto. "Demon?" Naruto said, visibly shaken, while on the inside he was laughing. "That's right. Have you ever wondered why the villagers despise you?" Do you not want to know? Mizuki scowled. No, Mizuki. It is prohibited, Iruka explained, only to be kicked in the head and knocked out. I'll tell you something, 12 years ago the Q. Is the old bastard listening in, Kurama? Naruto pondered. No, I've been keeping an eye out, and there's no one around to interrupt, Kurama explained. No one to hear the screams you mean, Naruto chuckled before continuing, so now that I have a plausible excuse to know the shadow clone jutsu, how about you come out and play for a while? You know too much about me. Yes, you are the Kyuubi in human form. Mizuki yelled. Yeah, Mizuki, the thing is, I'm not, but if you want to meet the Kyuubi in human form, I'll be happy to help. It's the least I can do after you were stupid enough to blame me for stealing the scroll, and I'll be sure to make good use of the knowledge within. Mizuki actually paled at that, but before he could react, a single shadow clone appeared alongside Naruto, its eyes turning red before it spoke in a deep voice. You humans, your idiocy knows no bounds. You're always playing with fire. He chuckled darkly, don't you think it's about time you got burned? He grinned before sprinting towards Mizuki at speeds he couldn't keep up with. Mizuki was grabbed by the face and slammed through a few trees before being thrown to the ground by the clone. He stomped on Mizuki's chest, breaking several ribs, before kicking him into another tree. Mizuki was on the floor, struggling to breathe, when the clone grabbed his neck. You insects should just crawl into a hole and die, he growled. Not to ruin your fun, but the Anbu will find us eventually, Naruto, who was watching with amusement, said. Kurama growled again before turning to Mizuki and saying, looks like you got lucky. I won't be able to take my time with you, but don't worry, even though it will be quick, it won't be painless, before exploding, blowing Mizuki apart and leaving him agonizing on the floor. When the Anbu arrived at the scene of the explosion, they found an unconscious Iruka, a dead Mizuki, and Naruto holding a scroll. Naruto walked into the Hokage office after Iruka had already been taken to the hospital when he arrived at the Hokage tower. His relationship with the Hokage was strained. He pretended to resent the Hokage for concealing the reason the villagers despised him in the identities of his parents, and while Hiruzen tried to connect with and help the boy, he couldn't tell him the truth. Of course, he had no idea that the boy was always aware of both. Hiruzen greeted Naruto as he entered. Naruto. Sarutobi, Naruto said coldly, and Hiruzen was disappointed. The boy initially addressed him as Hokage-sama, but as his rage over being denied answers grew, he made no attempt to conceal his contempt, and while he tried to make the boy see him as a friend or demanded respect from him, the former always failed and the latter only led to an argument he couldn't afford right now. What happened? He inquired. Mizuki lied to me, the implied just like you. Explain. He told me it was a test, that if I stole the scroll, he would make me Rookie of the Year. Iruka confirmed it, and Mizuki gloated. We fought, and I killed him with a jutsu I learned from the scroll. I see, Hiruzen replied. I will reward you for apprehending the traitor. How does a B-rank mission pay sound? Naruto stated, adequate. Alright, if there's anything else? Hiruzen inquired. There is, Naruto replied. He said when Hiruzen motioned him to continue. Mizuki informed me of the Kyuubi. Hiruzen paused for a moment before turning to face the boy and saying, I'm sorry Naruto. I wanted you to have a normal childhood, I didn't want you to find out this way. Naruto simply looked at him and said, you mean you wanted me to find out in a controlled environment, where you could spin the story to make yourself look like a hero and make me want to use the Kyuubi's power the way you wanted it to be used? I'm sorry, Naruto, but you were supposed to be regarded as a hero. If excuses could turn back time, my sperm donor and egg bank would not have made me a Jinchuriki. So you know about your parents as well, Hiruzen said, trying to ignore the terms he used to describe them. I have no parents, the Namikaze bastard and his bitch forfeited that right when they used me as a human sacrifice, Naruto grumbled. They're not called that by Naruto," Hiruzen stated firmly. "And why not? They orphaned me, turned me into a fucking living weapon, and the entire reason I went through all this nonsense is because of them," Naruto yelled, then looked at Hiruzen and said, "And you had no right to withhold any of this from me, but you did. You've been lying to me my entire life, and you expect me to be okay with it? No way. They cared about you, Naruto, but they had to protect the village," Hiruzen explained. "If they really cared about me, they wouldn't have made me a slave to this village. I never had a choice. I had to become a ninja, to fight and kill and die for the sake of a village that despises me, and it's all their fault." Hiruzen was about to respond, but Naruto cut him off. "No. I'm tired of making excuses. I'm always the one who suffers as a result, always getting the short end of the stick, and it's always for the sake of the village or the greater good or some other nonsense. What about my good? What about keeping an eye out for Naruto? I'm not expendable or any less important than any of those miserable bastards out there, but you know what? I get it. The message was pretty clear when the people who should have cared about me above all else turned me into a fucking demon container instead of staying around to raise me. I'll look out for myself because I'm the only one I can trust, I'll get stronger because I decided to, I'll make something of myself because it's my choice, and I'll achieve my goals regardless of what anyone says because nobody cared when I needed them, so why should I care when they need me? I'll achieve my happiness no matter how much blood, sweat, and tears are shed, and then I'll come back and shove it all in your face." Naruto stormed out of the office after finishing his yelling. Hiruzen could only sigh and gaze at a photograph of his successor. "Why didn't I seal the Kyuubi and you survived, Minato? You would not have made the same errors that I did." Naruto rummaged through his closet, trying to decide what kind of clothes he should wear for his shinobi gear. He had worn an orange shirt with black shorts and shinobi sandals during his academy days, but now that he was a genin, he wanted to change his outfit. It was team assignment day, and he was supposed to find out who his sensei was today. Of course, he knew who it was, and even though he wasn't dead last, he was confident Sarutobi would put him in Team 7 under Kakashi. The man had been trying to get closer to Naruto for years, and he would want someone he could trust as Naruto's sensei, not to mention Kakashi, being Minato's student, wouldn't take any other team besides his, not only for him, but also because Sasuke was on the team, and he would want to train the last Uchiha in honor of his friend Obito. He eventually settled on a black jacket with orange accents, black pants, and shinobi sandals. He happened to share canon Naruto's love of orange even in his previous life and chose an outfit based on what Naruto wore as a Hokage, which made him laugh. When he walked into class, everyone turned to look at him. He'd gathered his fair share of fangirls in the academy, and most of them were flushed from his new look. He walked to the back of the class, gave Hinata a small smile, and nodded to Sasuke before taking his seat next to Sasuke. After a few moments, the two biggest fangirls in class walked, or rather ran, in. While Sakura and Ino rushed up the stairs bickering, Naruto gave Sasuke a long-suffering look that he could only reciprocate. He had unintentionally converted Ino from one of Sasuke's fangirls to one of his during his time at the academy, and if he hadn't been too busy cursing every god he knew of, he would have caught the almost apologetic look Sasuke gave him that day. With her conversion, Ino's rivalry with Sakura shifted. Instead of fighting over Sasuke, they fought over who was cooler, or more dreamy. It made him shudder just thinking about it. Sakura and Ino came to a halt next to Naruto and Sasuke's seats and said almost in unison, "Get out of there, Naruto. I'm going to sit with Sasuke-kun." "Move, Sasuke, I want to sit with Naruto-kun." Naruto and Sasuke exchanged glances before Sasuke turned away and Naruto sighed and said, "What did I tell you, Ino? When I act like a fangirl, I show the opposite of what you like about me," she said, embarrassed. "Is there anything else?" "That I'm a strong and intelligent girl, and that having self-respect makes me even more beautiful," she blushed. "Good girl," Naruto said with a smile. Tell you what. Go to your seat, and after meeting the Jonin senseis, I'll pick you up at the flower shop and take you to lunch. She blushed even more and smiled as she nodded. Naruto smirked at Sasuke, who looked annoyed, and said, "You have to teach me how to do that." "Everything comes at a cost, Sasuke. How much are you willing to pay?" Sakura screamed, raising her fist, "Naruto, get out now or I'll make you." Before Sasuke could respond, Naruto laughed and said, "Really? You?" He then frowned at her and said, "I don't like arrogant people, Sakura, and I really don't like annoyances, so either get the power to back up that threat or get out of my face." Sakura dashed off to take her seat, while Sasuke stared at Naruto, speechless, and said, "You really have to teach me how to do that." While Iruka entered the classroom, Naruto just laughed. After everyone sat down, he gave a speech about how they were all Konoha ninja now and how they were expected to serve the village faithfully, but Naruto wasn't listening. Following that, he began to announce the teams, and Naruto listened intently, looking for any changes. He heard a few names in class that he didn't recognize from the anime, but those he did recognize were all the same: Inoshika Cho under Asuma Sarutobi, the tracking team under Kurenai Yuhi, and finally Team 7. Team 7 will be Sakura Haruno, Sasuke Uchiha. Naruto could feel Sasuke's full body flinch and grimace as Sakura cheered. And Naruto Uzumaki, you'll be under the command of Kakashi Hatake. While Sasuke was relieved that he would be on his rival's team and Sakura was irritated that she would be on his team, Naruto was smirking and thinking. Everything went as planned. Several minutes later, after Iruka left and all the senseis arrived to pick up their teams, Naruto stood up and turned to Sasuke, saying, "Hey Sasuke, let's do some sparring in the training grounds outside." "But what about the sensei? He could show up at any time," Sakura pointed out. "Kakashi Hatake is infamous for being at least 3 hours late to everything," Naruto explained. "But if it bothers you so much, you can stay in class and warn us when he arrives." "I'm not leaving you with Sasuke-kun," Sakura said. "Sakura, could you please stay here and warn us?" Sasuke grumbled through his teeth. "Of course, Sasuke-kun, I say." Before Naruto and Sasuke left the classroom, Naruto said, "You're going to have to do better than that. I'm not sure how you do it, but when you talk to Ino, she's almost tolerable. If you're going to repopulate the Uchiha clan, you're going to have to learn to smooth talk, because all the good choices have enough self-respect that simply being the last Uchiha won't be enough," Naruto said. "I know, I want a strong matriarch for the Uchiha clan." "I'm not sure about strong, but you could always pick Sakura," Naruto said, laughing at his friend's grimace. After 3 hours, when Kakashi arrived at his classroom to pick up his genin team, there was only a girl waiting for him. "You're late," exclaimed she. "Where are the others?" he asked, rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. "They're outside on the training grounds, they said they were going to spar." Kakashi motioned for Sakura to follow him as he went in search of his other 2 genin. He saw the 2 boys sparring when he arrived at the training ground. Naruto threw a punch at Sasuke, who blocked it and attempted to retaliate with a kick to the stomach, which Naruto avoided. They separated and looked at each other for a moment, looking for weaknesses and openings before rushing at each other again. Naruto jumped over a kick before kicking Sasuke himself while still in the air. Sasuke grabbed the kick and attempted to throw Naruto, only for the blonde to kick him with the other leg and use the movement to flip through the air and land on his feet. "You, too, are certainly lively," Kakashi commented. They came to a halt in their fight and approached Kakashi. Kakashi said after they had all moved to the roof, "How about you introduce yourself, your likes, dislikes, hobbies, and dreams? Why don't you go first, sensei, so we can learn how to do it?" Sakura suggested. "My name is Kakashi Hatake, and I like..." "Well, you're too young for that, dislikes." "I wonder, dreams." Not really. He only told us his name, Sakura reasoned. Before Kakashi could say anything, Naruto said, Kakashi Hatake, elite Jonin and higher rank ninja, son of Tsukumo Hatake aka Konoha's White Fang, Genin at 5, Chunin at 6, was on a team with Obito Uchiha and Rin Nohara with Minato Namikaze as his sensei, became Jonin in the mission to destroy Kanabi Bridge, in that same mission his teammate Obi. As everyone stared in awe at Naruto, he continued, he likes reading the Icha Icha series written by Jiraiya of the Sannin, he dislikes traitors, his hobby is reading, specifically the Icha Icha books, and his dream is to honor his fallen teammates by following his creed, those who break the rules are scum, but those who would abandon their comrades are worse than scum, he also spends at least. Kakashi looked at Naruto with wide eyes and said, wow, that's a very thorough analysis. Where did you learn all that? Know your enemy and know yourself, and you've already won the battle, Naruto said. I'm not your enemy, though, Kakashi said, smiling. Given that you're also a hypocrite for claiming that abandoning your comrades makes you worse than scum but having no problem abandoning your father figure's newborn son, I'm not so sure about that, Naruto said angrily. Kakashi simply looked down to hide the pain in his eyes, while Naruto and the others looked puzzled. After calming down, Kakashi turned to Sakura and said, introduce yourself, Pinky. Sure, Sakura replied, unsure what had happened between her sensei and her teammate. My name is Sakura Haruno, and my interests are. She blushed as she looked at Sasuke. My dreams are. She laughed. And I don't like Ino Pig. She considered saying Naruto, but the blonde had already scared her. You next, Broody, said Kakashi. My name is Sasuke Uchiha, and I despise a lot of things and don't particularly like anything. What I have in mind is not a fantasy, because I intend to make it a reality. I intend to restore my clan and kill a certain someone. How about you, blonde? Naruto? Kakashi asked, correcting himself in response to Naruto's glare. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and the rest is none of your business, though you should know given how much time you spent watching me, Naruto explained. Your teammates need to know Naruto, Kakashi said, frowning. Naruto glared at him for a moment before relenting and saying, fine, I like training and getting stronger, I dislike annoyances and people who have no bite to their bark, my hobbies are training, and my dream is a secret. Now that that's out of the way, I'd like you to meet me at Training Ground 7 tomorrow at 6 a.m. for a survival exercise, oh, and don't eat breakfast, Kakashi said before departing. Eat breakfast and be prepared to wait for him for a long time, Naruto said as he stood up to leave. What are you doing? Sasuke inquired. I still have lunch with Ino, and another thing you should know is that girls like guys who keep their word, Naruto laughed before leaving. Do you want, Sasuke-kun? No. The office of the Hokage. When Kakashi entered the Hokage office, he noticed the old third Hokage doing paperwork and smoking his pipe. After a brief moment, the old man spoke. How did it go, Kakashi? Bad, said Kakashi, shaking his head. When the old man motioned for him to continue, he did so, saying, I arrived at the classroom only to find Sakura was the only one waiting for me. When asked where the others were, she said they were sparring in the academy training fields. That makes sense. Sasuke is always training, and since the Mizuki incident, I've been watching Naruto, and he's been doing some serious training in the last 2 weeks. In fact, if it hadn't been for the Kyuubi, he would have passed out from exhaustion multiple times. The reveal really hit him hard, didn't it? Kakashi asked. He was always a loner and always dedicated, but I've seen his eyes and he really seems determined to get stronger, and not in a healthy way. It did, but I don't think that's all. The resentment he felt for Minato and Kushina seemed old, like a festering wound that had gone untreated for far too long. If I had to guess, I'd say he already suspected something and the reveal just gave faces to attribute the hatred to, Hiruzen said. Anyway, when I arrived at the training grounds, I saw them fighting, both clearly high genin at the very least, though they seemed to be holding back. I called them out and we moved to the roof. I did the standard introduction, but Naruto surprised me. He knew about me, my old teammates, my sensei, even my affinity and the Reikari, not to mention personal information like my creed. Hiruzen blew some smoke and inquired, did he mention how he knew all of that? He just said something about knowing your enemy, replied Kakashi. He said he thought I was his enemy, that I was a hypocrite, and that I abandoned him when he needed me the most, he said, looking down. It's not like that, Kakashi. You were needed by the village, we needed you to run missions, and you were also affected by Minato's death, Hiruzen explained. You weren't there, you didn't see his eyes. I could see just how much he hates me, how much he resents me, Kakashi said dryly. Things could have been different, maybe he wouldn't hate me. Maybe he wouldn't hate Minato-sensei. You're now his sensei. Form a bond with him, and I'm sure everything will work out, Hiruzen said. I'll try, but I'm not sure if I can, and I'm not sure if he'll let me. As Kakashi finished his report on the rest of the team and prepared to leave the office, a traitorous thought crept into his mind. Things would have been different if you had died in Sensei's place. The following day. At 8:30 a.m., Naruto arrived at Training Ground 7. He noticed his teammates sitting by the trees. Sasuke had his eyes closed, meditating, red brooding, and Sakura appeared to alternate between trying to talk to Sasuke and looking at him, blushing at some mental image. He approached them and said, "Hey guys." Sasuke nodded, but Sakura simply brushed him off. "Did you guys have breakfast?" he asked, ignoring her. "I didn't," Sakura stated, while Sasuke simply grunted and nodded. Naruto reached into his bag and pulled out a box of food, which he handed to Sakura, who said, "Sensei told us not to eat breakfast, and besides, I'm dieting. You'll need the energy, and besides, unless your diet consists of enemy kunai and your own blood, I recommend you stop. You're a kunoichi. You should be doing more than enough exercise to burn any calories you intake." He pushed the box into her hands. Sasuke nodded. "And besides, I'm not taking no for an answer. I can't have you die and leave us hanging because looking pretty came before survival. I'm stuck with you until the Chunin exams and I'm not going to let you drag me down," Naruto said, releasing a burst of murderous intent. Sakura nodded and took the box with trepidation. "Now here's the deal. Kakashi is an elite Jonin. There's no way regular genin can take him in a straight-up fight, so here's what we'll do," Naruto said. Kakashi arrived about a half hour later and found his team waiting for him. They were all sitting by the trees and seemed to be strategizing. They're on the right track, he thought. They got up when they saw him. "Are you ready, kids?" I asked. "This exercise is simple. You must take these bells from me before noon. If you do not, I will tie you to a post and eat lunch in front of you. I will also return you to the academy." They nodded, and Kakashi noted that they didn't seem to mind that there were only 2 bells. "All right. Start," Kakashi said. They all vanished, and Kakashi looked around for them, seeing Sakura in the bushes and Sasuke in the tall grass, but he couldn't find Naruto. He thought, impressive. He took out his orange book and went into the woods in search of his genin. The first one he found was Sakura, who glowed for a second before exploding just as he was about to put her under genjutsu. He wasn't a Jonin for nothing, and he managed to escape with only minor injuries. Exploding shadow clone? Is it possible? He didn't have time to think about it because he heard Sasuke say, "Fire style, great fireball." He twisted himself mid-air to avoid it, thinking, genin shouldn't be able to perform elemental jutsu. Sasuke rushed him and assaulted him with a fierce taijutsu barrage. Punches and kicks kept coming, and while Sasuke was clearly frustrated that he kept dodging, the boy wasn't as worked up as Kakashi expected. Sasuke abruptly retreated, and Kakashi was about to follow when Naruto appeared from the trees with an axe kick that caught Kakashi off guard and forced him to block, which proved to be a mistake when Kakashi was forced to his knees and the ground beneath him cracked. Naruto used his guard as a support to backflip and immediately followed up with a punch that made Kakashi's arms go numb. He pushed the blonde back, but before Kakashi stood up and put his book down, looking at them and saying, "You kids are good, I won't be able to read like this." Both of them smirked. Well, I guess I should take this a little more seriously. While Naruto formed a hand seal and said, "Shadow Clone Jutsu," several clones appeared and rushed at Kakashi, while Sasuke retreated. "Let's do it, Sasuke," Naruto said as the clone kept Kakashi busy. When Kakashi dispatched the last clone, he felt 2 spikes of chakra and became wide-eyed at what was about to happen. Fire style. Fantastic fireball. Great breakthrough in wind style. Both jutsus fused into a massive raging hot fireball that flew at Kakashi at breakneck speed. He performed a series of hand seals before slamming his hands on the ground and declaring, "Earth style, mud wall." When the fireball hit the wall, it exploded, blanketing the battlefield in smoke. When it cleared, Kakashi was nowhere to be found. Naruto nodded to Sasuke and sent out more clones. He drew his fist back and shattered it on the ground, causing Kakashi, who was hiding underground, to fly out. The clones rushed at him and blocked all of his escape routes, forcing him to block Sasuke's punch. Kakashi could only understand what they were trying to do when Naruto tied his legs with a quick application of ninja wire and Sakura dropped out of the trees upside down, stuck onto his back with a chakra control exercise she shouldn't know yet, and grabbed the bells before overcharging her feet with chakra, propelling her away from him and him into the ground below. The alarm clock went off just as he broke free from the restraints and landed on his feet, signaling the end of the test. "Well, that was certainly interesting, Naruto. How did you hit that hard?" "I've faced Jonin that didn't hit as hard as you," Kakashi said as they returned to the clearing. "Concentrate a lot of chakra in my limbs and release it as soon as the blow hits." "I see, that's an interesting technique. Do you know anyone who employs something similar?" "I recognize Tsunade Senju of the Sannin." "Oh, and how did you learn it?" Kakashi inquired, surprised that a genin would have a jutsu of a Sannin he'd never met. "I was trying to weaponize the blowback from tree climbing and ended up recreating it. Honestly, it's actually really simple in theory. The difficult part is having the chakra control to do it, but I had help." "And who helped you?" Kakashi inquired. "It turns out that when you're made entirely of chakra, you learn a thing or two about controlling it." Kakashi's eyes widened before he asked, "You're in contact with it?" When he got a nod, he said, "Naruto the Kyubis." He was cut off by Naruto. They were surprisingly reasonable after I spoke to them, understanding we're both victims of circumstance and agreed to become my partner if I let them out every now and then. Kakashi was taken aback. "Let them out?" "He can't mean." A clone appeared beside Naruto, its eyes turning red, and it said, "Goddammit brat, I'm not your pet to show off." When Kakashi saw the eyes, he extended his Sharingan and saw the familiar malevolent chakra, and Naruto said, "Calm down, Kakashi, they won't attack anyone." Kurama laughed and asked, "What's wrong, human, scared?" Naruto shook his head and laughed, Now, behave." Q-chan. Kurama froze before saying, "Fuck you, Naruto." They then turned to Kakashi and said, "The brat's mind is my domain. Tell your human leaders that if anyone enters it, I'll eat them." I said it was all downhill from there. Curiosity killed the fox it seems. Naruto laughed as Kurama vanished. "Did you get the exploding shadow clone from the Kyuubi as well?" Kakashi covered his Sharingan, thinking he had to report this to the Hokage as soon as he was done here. He inquired. "You can credit Mizuki for that." "Wait, Mizuki-sensei taught you a jutsu like that?" Sakura inquired, not fully comprehending Naruto's bizarre clone and what it had to do with the Kyuubi. "Mizuki was a traitor. He tricked me into stealing a scroll, and I used a jutsu from that scroll to kill him," Naruto sighed. I thought he was on a mission. Did you kill him? Sakura inquired. That combination technique was really good you too, and so was Sakura sticking to my back to get the bells. How did you learn to do that, Sakura? Said Kakashi. Naruto taught me, and he says I have excellent chakra control. If you manage to pick it up that quickly, you must really have it, Kakashi said to Naruto. You could make an excellent genjutsu mistress or medic nin. Sakura blushed and nodded in response to the compliment. Now that you have the bells, Sakura, which of your comrades will you send back to the academy? Kakashi inquired, his eyes twinkling. Well. She nodded at Naruto. I'll give one to Naruto and share mine with Sasuke-kun. Is that correct? In that case, you all pass, Kakashi explained. While Sakura cheered and said, you were right Naruto, Sasuke just smirked. I figured the test was about teamwork, he said, looking Kakashi in the eyes. Very well. Meet me here tomorrow at 6 a.m., 9 a.m., Kakashi said with an eye smile. And we'll begin our training, they said as Naruto walked to the training grounds. Aren't you returning home, Naruto? Kakashi inquired. There's still daylight to burn, there's still time to train, Naruto said, turning to his teammates. Sasuke, you saw me teaching Sakura tree climbing. I recommend that you focus on learning it, as you're the only member of our team who can't do it. Sakura, improve your chakra capacity by eating proper meals and training, or you won't live long enough to date Sasuke or anyone else. I said I wouldn't let you drag me down, and I mean it. You know Naruto, I'm the sensei, Kakashi said, looking at Naruto. I understand, but you'll most likely only teach teamwork, and my goal does not allow me to waste time that could be spent growing stronger. Furthermore, teamwork will be improved if everyone pulls their own weight and there are no weak links that require protection. Additionally, the advice I gave them does not interfere with whatever you have in mind because it can be done in their spare time. Naruto just sparred with one of his clones. There were also clones in the Mindscape training techniques that Naruto did not want to reveal just yet. 2 months later. To say the Hokage was surprised to learn about the Kyuubi was an understatement, but after careful consideration, he decided to simply have Kakashi monitor Naruto to ensure the Kyuubi was not influencing him. It took some convincing, but Team 7 convinced Naruto that he couldn't just have shadow clones do the D ranks while he went to train. They kept at that routine for quite a while before Naruto spotted someone he recognized from the anime in the Hokage Tower. He told his team he was going to talk to a kindred spirit, and left while they turned in the mission. They were in the Hokage's office when Naruto came in laughing, holding a straw and a bottle of sake. Naruto explained, and then she was all over me. You're a real player, kid. I'm proud of you, Tazuna said, turning to the Hokage. Lord Hokage, I'd like to request his team for my mission. What exactly is the mission? Kakashi inquired. It's AC rank to wave country, Hiruzen explained. When Kakashi asked the team what they thought, they all nodded. We'll take it, he said. Team, pack for a 2-week journey and meet me at the gates in an hour. They all left the office, and Naruto returned home, using storage scrolls to pack everything he needed and then moving to the gate. The wave arc, this will be fun, he thought. Team 7 was walking through one of the Fire Country's roads on their way to Wave Country, with Kakashi in the back holding a book, Sasuke and Sakura guarding Tazuna's sides, and Naruto leading the way. They'd been traveling for a few days, and Naruto had mostly kept to himself. He chatted with Tazuna and Sasuke occasionally, but he didn't go out of his way to initiate conversations with them. Kakashi had been trying to improve his relationship with Naruto for the past 2 months with no success. Naruto did as he was told during training and missions and didn't talk back too often, but he was always either cold and indifferent or angry and bitter to Kakashi, and whenever he tried to talk to him outside of official duties, Naruto brushed him off, ignored him completely, or told him to leave him alone. Kakashi was saddened by the fact that he and the son of his former sensei had such a relationship. He blamed himself for not being present for the blonde when he needed him, as well as the blonde's hatred for his parents. Don't worry, Naruto. I'm here for you now, and I'm not giving up on you. He pondered. Naruto was ecstatic about the prospect of real combat. He'd sparred before, but it didn't have the same thrill as real life and death. Even the battle with Mizuki didn't count because he didn't fight, and Mizuki was hardly opponent material, being as weak as being defeated by Kanon. Naruto was mobbed by clones with no technique whatsoever. He'd been looking for the Demon Brothers' infamous pond in the middle of a road with no other water source nearby, and when it hadn't rained in over a week, for quite some time, and was growing impatient. Where have those assholes gone? He pondered. Calm down, kid, they're just ahead of you, I can feel them, Kurama said. Finally, I'm excited to kick their asses. Just don't show too much, we don't want anyone finding out how strong you really are. I know, no tailed beast bombs, no S-rank techniques, no chakra modes or senjutsu. Don't worry, I'm not going to nuke half the country for fighting two Chunin. I hope not, you're always trigger happy during training, and there are too many witnesses here, remember to save the power trips for when we're alone, Kurama said. They continued walking for a little while longer before Naruto noticed the pond and had to suppress a smirk. He could tell from Kurama's emotion sensing that the brothers thought they had fooled them and that Kakashi had already spotted them. They walked past the pond, and Kakashi was shredded just as he had predicted. One down, one of the brothers announced. They dashed towards the genin, but Naruto cut the chain in half with a wind-infused kunai. Gozu approached Sasuke and attempted to skewer him with his clawed gauntlet on his right hand, but Sasuke easily dodged and punched him before moving inside the rogue guard nins and kneeing him in the stomach before uppercutting him in the jaw. Gozu kicked Sasuke out of his guard and tried to hit him with his half of the chain as a whip, but the Uchiha dodged before grabbing the chain and channeling lightning chakra through it, knocking the missing nin unconscious. Mizu charged at Naruto, believing that the genin would be easy prey. He threw a punch that Naruto deflected with a punch of his own, bringing his armored gauntlet to block, but the force of Naruto's punch shattered the gauntlet and broke his arm. While he was still reeling from the shock and pain, Naruto grabbed his chain, stepped behind him, and kicked him in the back of the knee, forcing him to his knees and tying him up with his own chain. You can come out now, Kakashi said as he walked out of the woods, his body reduced to the size of a log. Tazuna and the Sakura who was guarding him vanished, and the real Sakura emerged from their hiding place in the trees. You did well, Kakashi said. It was a good idea, Sakura, to hide the client, and using genjutsu as a diversion was also a good move. Sakura blushed but smiled proudly at the compliment. You and Naruto did well in capturing the attackers, but I don't recall teaching you nature transformation, Kakashi said. Naruto and I discovered our affinities, and since mine was lightning, I went in search of information on it, Sasuke explained. Very good, I see. Would you like to share what you have, Naruto? Kakashi inquired. My natural affinity is wind, but I have jutsu from all elements, Naruto explained, smirking, and what's not to love about the shadow clone jutsu's memory transfer function? I'll get you to teach me that jutsu one day, grumbled Sasuke. Sorry, Sasuke, but your chakra reserves are far too small for you to accomplish anything other than kill yourself from chakra exhaustion, Naruto laughed. Before Kakashi could begin questioning the captured brothers, Naruto said, Now Gozu and Mizu, C-rank missing nin from Kiri, would you kindly tell us why you're going after our client? Kakashi decided to observe how Naruto handled the situation. Fuck you. We ain't telling you shit, Mizu said as Gozu glared at Naruto. Is that correct? Naruto inquired, his smirk chilling the brothers' blood. A massive wave of killing intent struck them both, freezing them and consuming them with images of them dying in slow and agonizingly painful ways. Don't get me wrong. Your lives were forfeit the moment you attacked us. The only thing left to decide is whether you want to die quickly or slowly. It was Gato. He hired us to kill the bridge builder. Gozu said. Why? Naruto inquired. We don't know. Don't tell me lies. Naruto snarled. He doesn't want the bridge to be finished because he controls Wave's economy and the bridge will fail. I see, Naruto replied. He then turned to Tazuna and said, I don't like being lied to, Tazuna-san, so please tell us the truth. Tazuna then explained the situation on Wave and what Gato was doing to the country. In the end, they agreed to continue with the mission on the condition that Tazuna pay them the appropriate mission pay when Wave country was restored. Okay, now that that's settled, what should we do with you two? Kakashi said, looking at the demon brothers. They die here, Naruto explained. I said they were dead the moment they crossed me, and I meant it. Additionally, I want their bounties. Now I could kill them myself, but you two haven't had your first kills yet, Naruto said, looking at Sasuke and Sakura, both of whom appeared visibly uncomfortable, the latter more so. Did you already have yours? Kakashi inquired. Remember Mizuki? And how did you handle it? The first kill is usually intense, and I don't recall you showing any examples of it. Mizuki crossed me, so I killed him. I didn't particularly dislike him, so I took no pleasure in the killing, but other than that, I didn't feel anything. I see, Kakashi replied. Naruto motioned for his teammates, and after a brief hesitation, Sasuke stepped forward, nodding to Naruto and pulling out a kunai. And no. Please keep us in mind, the demon brothers spoke up. Sasuke ignored them and grabbed Gozu's hair, staring him down before slicing his throat and holding his head until he bled out. He then stood up, but before he could leave, Naruto placed his hand on his shoulder and whispered, "You did well. If you want to avenge your clan and kill Itachi, you must be willing to go through with it." Sasuke paused for a long moment before nodding. The combination of remembering the pain and trauma Itachi had inflicted on him, the sensation of taking his first life, and the fact that after Naruto said it, he could see Itachi's Sharingan eyes as lifeless as Gozu's, causing his vision to become much clearer suddenly. "Congratulations, you just awakened your Sharingan," Naruto said as he smiled and patted him on the back. When Sasuke saw the red eyes reflected on the surface of the kunai, he smirked and thought, "I'm one step closer to my revenge." "Sakura?" Naruto inquired, motioning to Mizu, who was crying beside his brother's body. "And no, I'd rather and not," Sakura said, her face pale. "Give yourself a suit." Kakashi went to comfort Sakura while Naruto grabbed a kunai, coated it with wind chakra, and chopped Mizu's head clean off with a normality that made Kakashi uncomfortable. He then took a scroll of storage and placed both heads inside. After burning the bodies, they continued their journey, Sakura feeling better but still shaken by the killing, Sasuke testing his Sharingan by activating and deactivating it, Naruto walking casually in front with no signs of emotional turmoil, and Kakashi in the back keeping an eye on his students while thinking sadly. "You grew up too quickly, Naruto." Several days later. They'd just gotten off the boat in Wave and were on their way to Tazuna's house, and Naruto had been thinking about how to deal with Zabuza. He had a plan, but he'd have to be careful not to reveal it before it was too late. Naruto felt what had to be Zabuza hiding in the bushes, and another signature he assumed was Haku further away as they walked. When there was movement in the bushes, Sasuke threw a kunai at them. When Zabuza's position changed and a small white rabbit emerged from the bushes, he couldn't help but grin. A dense mist blanketed the area, putting Kakashi on high alert. Naruto sensed a spike of malice, and a massive butcher knife-like sword flew towards them. "Stay down!" Kakashi yelled, but just as the sword was about to strike them and Sasuke was about to push Naruto down, Naruto grabbed the sword in midair, twisted it, and used its own momentum to pierce the ground with its blade first. "That's very impressive, kid, but I'm going to need that back," Zabuza said as he appeared next to a tree. Well, if it isn't Zabuza Momochi, the demon of Kiri, Naruto smirked as Kakashi positioned himself between his team and Zabuza. Oh, you've heard of me? A few things. Tell me, have you recently killed any Mizukages? Zabuza said with a frown. Konoha has been informed. We do, but don't you think you bit off more than you could chew? You're a high jonin at best, and while Yagura is a perfect Jinchuriki, he's a little heavy for you. Kids these days, no respect, Zabuza grumbled. I know. I'm supposed to be team captain, but he does all the talking and teaches them more than I do. I sometimes wonder if he isn't the Jonin sensei, Kakashi explained. That's why I liked Kiri, killed everyone in my class to graduate, good times, Zabuza said with a bloodthirsty grin. The Zabuza they were speaking with abruptly vanished, and Kakashi blocked a kick that sent him away from the sword, allowing the genin to back away. Sakura stood in front of Tazuna, while Naruto and Sasuke stood in front of her. Kakashi lifted his headband and displayed his Sharingan as Zabuza retrieved his sword and vanished into the mist. He blasted them with a wave of killing intent, but Naruto easily countered it. He sensed Zabuza approaching and, just as he was about to slice them, Naruto spat out a blast of air, dispelling the water clone and scattering the mist. Great breakthrough in wind style. Another Zabuza leapt from the trees and charged at Kakashi, who began exchanging blows with him. After a while, Zabuza kicked Kakashi into a nearby lake and moved to pursue him, as Kakashi tried to get out of the water, but it became heavy and drew him into a sphere-like prison. Water style. Water prison, said Zabuza. Zabuza then created a swarm of water clones that charged at the genin. No. You can't fight them. Just take the client and leave. Form within the water prison, said Kakashi. Naruto nodded to Sasuke, who was using his Sharingan, and they both went through hand seals at the same time. Naruto stated, water style, wild water wave. Sasuke stated, lightning style, electromagnetic murder. The combination attack instantly dispelled most of the clones, while those who jumped up the trees were picked off by Sakura's invisible shuriken when they tried to attack. Nice use of genjutsu to make the shuriken invisible, Zabuza thought. Naruto then threw a kunai at Zabuza, who dodged it. When the kunai hit the water, it transformed into one of Naruto's clones before passing through hand seals. Electromagnetic murder in lightning style. Zabuza was forced to jump away from the electrified water, causing the prison to fall. Kakashi stood on the water and took deep breaths before saying as the clone cancelled the jutsu and dispelled. You did well, but he's now mine. That's some scary genin you got there, Kakashi, Zabuza said before beginning hand seals. Kakashi began hand seals as well, but before either of them could finish, a Naruto clone appeared from the ground next to Zabuza and exploded, throwing the former Kiri nin into a tree. The team approached the downed form of Zabuza, minus Sakura, who was still guarding the bridge builder, before Kakashi said, "That was very rude, Naruto. I said he was mine." Where ninja, if he thought he could stand in place doing hand seals for several seconds while facing an entire enemy team, he's either stupid or he thought we mere genin didn't pose a threat to him. A senbon emerged from the woods and struck Zabuza in the neck, causing him to stop breathing. They were immediately on guard, but the hunter nin who emerged held his hands in a peace gesture. Thank you. I've been looking for him for weeks, and you've given me the chance to kill him. Kakashi moved to check, but the hunter nin couldn't help but notice Naruto kept staring at him and laughing. Is something wrong? He inquired. Nothing at all, Hunter-chan, Naruto exclaimed, unable to hold back his laughter. Okay? The hunter nin then took Zabuza's body away, and Kakashi slumped forward, exhausted by chakra. Kurama inquired as his clones carried Kakashi to Tazuna's house. Did you note him? We'll be able to track them now, thanks to his sword. I still think you're stupid. Why take the risk when you can just let him die on the bridge? Because I want to face them both alone, without having to worry about over-revealing myself. Besides, both bounties will be mine alone, and while things are fine for the time being, we'll be leaving Konoha and will need money. I've considered just taking the money Gatu stole from Wave Country, but there's no need, and they haven't wronged me, so I might as well let them keep it. Sure. Whatever you say, we both know you just want to play with them to feel powerful. Stupid fox, shut up. The following day, they arrived at Tizuna's house to be greeted by his daughter Tsunami and grandson Inari. They had transferred Kakashi to a bed and were sitting on the table, unsure what to do. I'll leave some clones in the house to protect them and Kakashi, but we should train in case someone else shows up, Naruto explained. But who will come? That Zabuza guy, isn't he? Sakura inquired. I'm not so sure about that. Hunter Nin usually deal with the body on the spot. He was probably working with Zabuza, and there's no guarantee Gatu didn't simply hire more people to go after Tizuna. That makes sense. If he's coming after us again, we need to get stronger, Sasuke explained. Naruto noticed Sakura gathering her courage to ask him a question and turned to face her. Is it something you want to say? Well, why do you treat Kakashi-sensei the way you do? He stared at her for a long moment, unsure how or if he should respond at all. Finally, he decided that telling the truth wouldn't hurt. My sperm donor was Kakashi's sensei and surrogate father. When he decided to orphan me on purpose and curse me on his way out, Kakashi decided to leave me to the mercy of a village that hates me for something the bastard did but worships him for doing it, choosing instead to drown his grief in sex, alcohol, and high-ranking missions. Naruto's head was so full of raging thoughts and emotions that he barely registered the spike of hurt and sadness coming from behind Kakashi's door. Both Sasuke and Sakura looked at him with puzzled and concerned expressions, but before they could say anything, he got up and left without saying anything. I don't get it, Sakura admitted. Neither do I, Sasuke replied. Didn't he say Kakashi-sensei's was the fourth Hokage? I don't know, Sakura, Sasuke interrupted, but family has always been a sensitive subject near Naruto, and I know he despises the fourth, but I'm not sure why. But how could he hate the fourth? He's a hero, and if the fourth is his father. I'm not sure, but I wouldn't call him Naruto's father anywhere near Naruto. He's reserved, but when certain subjects come up, Naruto tends to get angry, Sasuke said. Perhaps Ino would know, she's always with Naruto. Maybe. The nearby woods. In rage, Naruto shattered another tree, and several more lay on the ground. Calm down, kid, Kurama advised. I'll kill that son of a bitch, I'll bring the bastard back all so I can kill him again. I know you get angry when he's mentioned, but you have to keep your cool because he's in the Shinigami's stomach, and there is no worse fate than that. I know. I know. It's just that jerk irritates me. There are times when I wish you had crushed me with that paw, then razed his precious village to the ground and slaughtered everyone inside. Honestly, I wish we didn't have to get him out of there just to get your other half. I know, but consider how much power we will gain by recovering my other half. You're correct, Kurama. At any time, kid, we're partners. We're in this together. Always. Several days later, Kakashi had awoken a few hours after Naruto left for the woods and agreed with them that Zabuza might still be alive and that they needed to train in case he returned. There was a sadness surrounding him, but Sasuke and Sakura decided not to inquire. Naruto returned from the woods later that night, but went to bed without saying anything to anyone. Following that, there was always one of them, as well as clones guarding both the house and Tizuna on the bridge. Naruto's movements had mostly returned to normal, but there was still a sense of restrained anger in them. Inari entered the room while they were eating, glared at them, and said, "Why do you try so hard? Gato will just kill you." Everyone except Naruto turned to look at him with a puzzled expression. "You should just get out of here before Gato kills you." "Inari doesn't speak to them like that," Tsunami pointed out. "But why should they? They're going to die anyway." Tsunami was interrupted by Naruto, who had finished his meal and stood up. He thanked Tsunami for the food, ruffled Inari's hair, and walked out of the house with a smirk on his lips and an aura of excitement replacing the restrained anger that had previously existed. Everyone was perplexed by Naruto's reaction, or rather lack thereof, to Inari's outburst, especially his abrupt change in disposition. Even Inari was perplexed by the blonde's apathy. "Is it time yet to go after Zabuza and his tool?" Kurama inquired. "Not quite, that's tomorrow, but for now, we've got a philosophical debate with a guy dressed as a girl about the benefits of caring about people." "You don't agree with him based on your tone." "Don't get me wrong, it's understandable for him to be so loyal to Zabuza after he saved them, but understanding doesn't mean I agree." Naruto entered the woods and began his training. He couldn't train seriously because he was about to enter a fight, and while he was confident in his strength, he wasn't stupid enough to enter a fight exhausted unless there was no other option. A few hours later, he was resting under a tree when he felt a signature approaching him. The signature was clearly suspicious of him but didn't seem to realize Naruto knew who he was. Naruto saw the boy approaching with a basket full of medicinal herbs and said, "You know, it's dangerous for a pretty girl like you to go wandering in the woods," Naruto said. "Don't worry, I know these woods very well," Haku said to Naruto. Naruto had to admit that he could understand why his canon self mistook Haku for a girl. He was undeniably attractive. "You're going to make this yaoi, aren't you?" Kurama teased. "Fuck you, Kurama." "I see," Naruto said to Haku. "Why are you collecting these plants?" "They're medical, someone dear to me was injured, and while he's nearly recovered, these should get him back to top form," Haku explained, turning to Naruto. "I see you're wearing a headband. Are you a ninja?" "I am, and I am from Konoha." "I see, you must be quite strong." "I can handle myself, but I'm nowhere near the power I want," Naruto admitted. "I believe that protecting your precious people is the only way to be truly strong." "Do you have anyone precious to you?" "No, I've never done that." "Oh," Haku said, looking down, "you should find some people who are precious to you. Only by protecting them will you become truly strong." Naruto shook his head and said, "If there's one lesson that life has taught me, it's that when shit hits the fan, you're on your own. You tell me I should find precious people to protect me, but how can I when the people who should have been my precious people, who should have cared about me saw me as unimportant, as expendable, when they abandoned me when I needed them the most?" Haku was taken aback by the blonde's hurtful tone and said, "Just because people hurt others does not mean we should stop caring. Instead, we should try to help others, to make them understand, and to make them care. The closest I have to people I care about are a girl who's more casual entertainment than a loved one or even a friend, a boy who's my friend but I wouldn't give up my goal to save him if that's what it took, just as I'm sure he wouldn't give up his to save me, and my partner whose life is literally linked to mine, so it's more about coexistence and mutual benefit than anything else." "I love you too," Kurama sneered. "Fox, shut up." "I see," Haku said, disappointed. "I have to get these plants to my precious person right now." "Sure. Just do me a favor," Naruto said, and Haku motioned for him to continue, wondering what the blonde would ask. "Tell Zabuza that I'll be coming for both of you tonight, and he'd better make it a good time for me." Haku was taken aback and asked, "How did you know?" "Who are you?" "I know a lot of things. Haku of the Yuki clan of Kiri, user of ice release," Naruto said, seeing his fear on his face. "Don't worry, you can be a good little tool and die before he does. I'm not going to let you hurt Zabuza-sama." "Oh, I hope you don't. Why do you think I let Zabuza recover and am telling you when I'll attack? I hope you fight with everything you've got, otherwise it's not fun," Naruto smirked. Haku threw Senbon at him, but he easily avoided it and replied, "Don't get too excited. We'll fight tonight. I'll come for you in your treehouse, and I hope you two entertain me before I take your heads." Haku threw more Senbon at him before leaping to the trees and fleeing, and Naruto sat with a smirk, looking towards the village, specifically Gatu's compound, and thinking, "I'm coming for you after them." That evening, Naruto jumped through the woods, moving towards the signature he could feel with the tracking seal he put on Zabuza's sword, and when he saw the treehouse in the distance, he created 4 clones and told them to follow him. "Make certain they can't escape and that no unexpected guests interfere with my enjoyment." The clones nodded and moved to circle the treehouse, which Naruto continued to approach until he sensed Zabuza hiding in the trees and a clone walked out of the house to meet him. "What did you say, kid? That I was chewing on more than I could handle? It's ironic coming from the genin who not only walks into my turf but also warns me about it," with a bloodthirsty grin, Zabuza said. "Not really, I could crush you whenever I want, I just want to have some fun beforehand, holding back all the time is stressful, you know," Naruto said sarcastically. "If your sensei won't teach you respect, kid, I will." "Too bad you won't live long enough to put it to use," Zabuza said before charging at Naruto and preparing to stab him with his sword. Naruto easily disarmed Zabuza and stabbed him through the chest, causing the clone in the sword to dissolve into water, before turning to the real Zabuza and saying, "If that's all you've got, it's no surprise you had to flee Yagura like a B***tch. Zabuza growled at the insult and jumped at Naruto from his hiding spot with an overhead slash. Naruto dodged and punched Zabuza, who flew back at the force of the blow. Naruto followed and fell onto Zabuza with an axe kick that shattered the tree they were standing on and created a massive crater in the ground below. "Oh my god. Is that a genin?" Zabuza was taken aback. Naruto flew through hand seals at breakneck speed and said, "Majestic Destroyer Flame Fire Style." A massive wave of fire slammed into Zabuza, reducing everything it touched to ashes. Frozen Shield. Ice Style. When the jutsu died down, a wall of ice sprouted from the ground and attempted to block the flames, but the flames were too hot and the wall melted, and there was no one behind where the wall was. "So the tool has appeared. I was wondering if you were going to watch me kill your master, or maybe you wanted to save him to seduce him, that's why you crossdress, right?" Naruto smirked as a red barrier appeared around him. "Sorry, Zabuza, I made sure you didn't flee like a bitch from this fight." Water Dragon Water Style. A massive water dragon attacked Naruto, who countered with his own jutsu. Stone Dragon in Earth Style. Naruto's dragon easily battered Zabuza aside before rushing towards the real Zabuza in the trees and colliding with him, turning him into a clone and forcing Naruto to jump back to avoid a hail of ice shuriken. "You can't hide from me, Zabuza," Naruto said as he fashioned an earthen sword and coated it with wind before turning around and locking blades with Zabuza. "Now, Haku!" Zabuza exclaimed. An ice spear flew out of the trees and towards Naruto, who simply smirked and let the spear pierce him, only for the spear to turn into lightning and shock Zabuza, giving the true Naruto the opportunity to fire another jutsu. Thunderclap Lightning Style. Naruto fired a thunderbolt at Zabuza, who was saved by Haku at the cost of being hit himself, and Zabuza threw shuriken at Naruto, who dodged but gave him enough time to perform his signature technique. Hidden Mist Water Style. Zabuza stated that the area was covered in a thick mist. "I'm not sure what you're talking about, kid. You're clearly not a genin, but I'm a master of the silent killing technique, and I'll show you why." Naruto could hear Zabuza's voice coming from everywhere, as if he had defeated the blonde. If I were a regular sensor, this would be a problem because the mist is covered in his chakra, Naruto smirked. Too bad I can feel his emotions, Naruto said as he felt a spike of killing intent and dodged a hail of shuriken. Zabuza sneakily approached the blonde and attempted to cut him in half, only for Naruto to dodge and cut Zabuza across the chest with his own blade, before backflipping to avoid the ice spike that flew at him. Haku began throwing senbon at him, one of which hit him in the leg, causing him to stumble and fall. When Zabuza tried to capitalize, Naruto simply smirked and said, "Gotcha," before exploding, causing Zabuza to be blown back and hit a tree. The real Naruto screamed as he flew through hand seals. Crushing wave water style. He spewed a massive wave that hit Zabuza and knocked over the tree he was leaning against. After a while, Zabuza emerged from the water battered, bruised, and breathing heavily. "Don't you think it's past time to wrap this up?" Naruto stated. "What are you? You're as powerful as Yagura," Zabuza yelled. "Believe it or not, I've been holding back quite a bit," he continued. "For example, I haven't even tapped into the power of my tailed beast yet." Zabuza grew pale at that and said, "Believe it or not, I've been holding back quite a bit." "No, you're deceiving me, monster." Naruto smirked, and he was suddenly enveloped in a golden glow, with 9 majestic tails appearing behind him, and the pressure of his chakra causing Zabuza to choke. It vanished as quickly as it appeared. "Don't worry, I won't use Kurama's power on you. I'm more than capable of taking you on my own." Naruto was suddenly attacked by a hail of senbon that kept coming. Tired of dodging, he sped through hand seals and yelled, "Raging hurricane wind style." The wind whipped up a hurricane, uprooting several trees, deflecting all the senbon, and dissipating the mist. When Naruto was able to see again, he noticed Haku going through hand seals before yelling, "Demonic ice mirrors, ice style." Several Hakus reflected in the mirrors and threw hundreds of senbon at Naruto, who flew through hand seals and said, "Earth fashion, rock armor." Naruto smirked and said as all the senbon bounced harmlessly off his rocky shell. "Alright, let me show you a little of what I'm capable of," he said, making some hand seals before taking a deep breath and screaming, "Vacuum bomb in Inferno style." When Naruto hit the ice mirrors, it exploded in a massive ball of heat that incinerated them all and blew Haku out of them and through the nearby flaming trees. "Well, Zabuza, I thank you. I hadn't been able to let loose even a little outside of training before and I'm feeling much better now that I can," Naruto said to Zabuza's downed form. "What's your name, kid?" "I'd like to know who killed me," Zabuza said. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki, and that's very gracious of you to accept your death with dignity." "I'm not a coward, Naruto. I won't flee or beg for mercy. The only reason I fled the Mizuki was to continue assisting the rebellion. If it's worth anything, I'll kill Yagura and the man controlling him eventually, and I hold no ill will towards the rebellion, and I hold no ill will towards you either. We just happened to meet on opposite sides of the battlefield," Naruto said. "So he's really being controlled, huh? I knew Naruto. I appreciate you doing this even though I have the impression you're not doing it for me." Naruto smiled and snatched Zabuza's sword, looking at it and saying, "I'll return this to Kiri when I can." After receiving an appreciative nod from Zabuza, he lifted the sword and said, "I'll return this to Kiri when I can." "Goodbye Zabuza Momochi, I'll never forget you," he said as he moved to strike, but Haku stepped in front of the blade and took the blow for him. "Zabuza-sama." Haku shed a tear as he looked at Zabuza before hugging him and dying in his arms. "He cared for you like a father," Naruto explained. "I know he was a son to me, even if I never told him so. Please let me die alongside him." Naruto nodded, and as Zabuza returned Haku's hug and shed a tear, Naruto removed both of their heads in one clean move, storing both in a storage scroll and burning the bodies. "This is the world we live in, huh?" he thought as he looked up at the sky. "Are you okay, kid?" Kurama inquired. "Yeah, just. I guess I still saw it as somewhat phony, you know. Only now do I really see these people as real people rather than fictional characters." "Does that make a difference?" "No, not at all. I still have my goal and will do whatever it takes to achieve it." "Good, we don't want you to give it up because you have a hero complex." "Ha. As if the fate of the world is in my hands. I'm not a hero, I'm just a madman on a suicidal quest for power. And I'd have you no other way."
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.